Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Today I'm doing an interview with Lady Decade. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going very good.
Good to hear. Now, like I said in the beginning, I'm a huge fan of your channel, and I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's no problem. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to a few friends, Frilly, Nightshades, and Pascal. I honestly couldn't do this interview without you guys, so shout out to you. So, do you want to get started?
Yeah, no worries.
All right. What made you start YouTube?
Well, back in I think probably about 2014, 2015, my husband and I were very, very regular watchers of YouTube, and we decided one day that we wanted to have a go as well. So we ended up making a channel for him, which is called Top Hat Gaming Man, and so although on that particular channel, I sort of mainly helped with writing, and I did all of the filming on that. It sort of just started with us working on that on there, and then when I was pregnant with my eldest son, I was saying to my husband, "Oh well, I need something of my own to do, because ideally I didn't want to be in a situation where I needed to go back to work and have someone else raise my son for me, because we was in a fortunate position where we was just about bringing in enough money from the Top Hat Gaming Man channel with renting out our own house, so the shortfall being made up by rent whilst living with his parents, that I didn't have to go back to work. But yeah, basically I started off about 3 years ago. However, I found that having a baby was actually sort of a lot more time consuming than I thought it was going to be.
Of course.
Yeah, so if you go back on my channel, you'll see that I started off fairly regular whilst my baby was really little. But then as he got bigger and time went on, I was just not finding time to do it at all, and I was sort of going like 6 months to a year between uploads, because I was doing the editing myself, and I'm a very slow editor, and I find it really boring, and I'm just when it comes to editing, I'm not creative enough, basically. So I ended up sort of thinking, oh well, I can't really do that much with my channel. I experimented with doing just some straight to camera pieces so that I wouldn't have so much editing to do, or talking point videos, but I sort of didn't really get the right feel for them, because what I really like doing is documentary style videos, and doing sort of straight to camera pieces just wasn't the right feel for what I wanted. It didn't feel right to me. So I had my second baby and been messing around with sort of doing shorts, and am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Okay. I was doing shit posting on Twitter with pictures, just like the most offensive pictures that I could think of, and then putting them on Twitter, and one of them I got, let me see, 2,300 likes and something like this. Yeah, over 700 retweets. Sorry, my friend actually he printed off Immore tweets. So my two best performing tweets are actually on the shelves behind me. He's printed them onto metal, which is really cool. So those did really well, but back in May, my husband's best friend, who he's got a little YouTube channel of his own, if anyone's interested in game music and heavy metal or anything, is called Exploding Music Syndrome. He said to my husband, oh well, why aren't you, oh sorry, do you know what, I've missed a massive step in all of this. So in amongst me doing all of this sort of shit posting and doing these shorts, we was also trying to launch another second channel for the Top Hat Gaming Man brand called Top Hat Wrestling Man. And the way we was operating that channel was we was asking some of our friends to help with the writing and help with the editing, to see if we could launch a wrestling themed channel. Except that it didn't really work. It didn't go anywhere. We didn't sort of manage to make it work. Partially because we was obviously I can't help out much when I look after the children during the day. And sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I've got a tickle at the moment. So if I keep coughing, it's because I've had a bit of a cold this week.
Understandable.
But yeah, my it wasn't really working on that channel, and Ryan was helping doing the editing on that. But then he said to Richard, "You've got Lady Decade sat there doing nothing. Why don't we do something with that?" So Richard said to me, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah. I hate doing the editing. If someone else is going to do the editing for me, then great. I'll absolutely go ahead with that." So that's where we are. Ryan made that offer, and then from there, it just sort of took off. His editing is considerably. I was about to do a really English joke then, so considerably better than you. Which is, unless you've got English audience, no one's going to get that. It's as a throwback to the Harry Enfield and Chums TV program, which is a really hilarious, highly inappropriate now. You would never get away with it now, but in the 90s, like Harry Enfield and Chums and the Fast Show were like the best. But his editing was considerably better than mine. And I put up my first video, which was a video about how the PlayStation won the console wars. And then just from there, with each subsequent video that uploaded, it just went really, really well. So we seems to have ended up with a really cohesive team working behind the Lady Decade channel, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's actually dope to hear. Now I'm a retro game collector myself, and I always see in the beginning of your videos your huge collection. And just a few questions. What would you have to say to somebody just starting out in retro gaming, like right now, with the prices going crazy and whatnot?
Gosh, yeah, with the prices going crazy, I don't really know what I would suggest to somebody in that regard. If someone wanted to start collecting now, it's really, really hard. It's really, really difficult, because it used to be that you could go. I mean, I'm speaking specifically about England because my game collecting in America is really limited.
Of course. So
for the UK, the British version of flea markets is called a boot sale. Basically, a boot sale is like loads and loads and loads of people pull up in a massive field, and out the boot of their car, which I suppose, what do you call the boot? The trunk.
A trunk.
Yeah, so you set up your stall and you put all your bits and pieces there, but you're essentially sitting out the trunk of your car, and that's basically what most markets are like, where you used to be able to get really good deals, because essentially people were just selling old tat from their houses that they didn't want anymore, and you used to be able to find like really, really good deals. Like we managed to used to pick up like loads of stuff, like Pokemon Game Boy games, Xbox games, PlayStation games. I mean, you would have to fight the scalpers, because you'd always get the scalpers get there at 5 o'clock in the morning when everybody's setting up, and run around and pick up all the best stuff. And then if you're like me, you don't really want to get out of bed much before 6 if you're going to a boot sale. So sometimes it was a little bit difficult, because you had to be there at the right time before, well, to hope that the scalpers hadn't got there before you. But other places would be the obvious places like Game. Not Game anymore. You can't really buy retro in Game at all. You can't buy any retro in Game. Back when I was working for Game Station, when that was still around, we had loads of retro in there. Now you can only really go to CEX, and again, is CEX or other pawnbrokers. They have them, but you won't necessarily get a good deal. You're kind of stuck, really, just hoping that someone puts a good deal on eBay, or some collectors decided to sell their collection off, and they're doing it for reasonable prices or doing big bundles. So I guess really, if you're going to start out from fresh, your only hope in this day and age at the moment, until the prices sort themselves back out again, would be eBay, I guess. But even then, you can be paying through the nose compared to 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, eBay's ridiculous. You guys have thrift stores in the UK?
Pardon? Sorry,
You
I
guys have
coughed.
thrift?
Charity shops. Yeah, you do get some in charity shops, but not often. So yeah, I mean, we do look in the occasional charity shop. Like if we go to like for example, say we do go up to London. I mean, we haven't gone at all since the pandemic, but if you go up to London and you don't go up the West End, you go to sort of the boroughs instead, then you can take a look in the charity shops and see if there's something there. Or say you go to Norwich instead, that's another place where we've had a bit of luck looking in charity shops, but it's just really not like it used to be. Like genuinely, the only place we've been buying stuff, like I bought a Sufami Turbo recently, but we had to like literally look at eBay for several weeks before one came up at a reasonable, sensible price, and even then we couldn't buy one in one lot. We had to buy the Sufami Turbo boxed as one purchase, and then a second purchase with the Sufami games. And yeah, that was it's literally, prices are ridiculous now.
It's ridiculous. Like a few consoles I'm trying to collect for right now is the GameCube and a Dreamcast, and those prices are crazy. One game I've been hoping to pick up is Shenmue, but my retro game store wants it for like $70.
Yeah. See, I've never even had to attempt to buy Shenmue because my husband had it from being released, so he's always had it, so we've never had to worry about purchasing that one. But yeah, again, some of the prices that we paid, I remember being shocked at how much we paid, and that was several years ago. But with what's going on with Wata Games and Heritage at the moment, it's awful.
Yeah,
They're ruining it. We've got an auntie who lives in you're in Canada, aren't you? Or are you in the States?
I'm in the United States.
Okay. My husband's auntie lives in Toronto, and she's like in her 70s. So someone in their 70s generally isn't interested in games, but she actually phoned us and was like, "Oh, a Super Mario game has just sold for $2 million. You should sell your collection." Like, that's not right, is it? It's not right. I'm so sorry. I was hoping that I might have a drink in here. Do you mind if I just go get myself a drink? Because at the moment, I'm going to keep coughing every 10 seconds. Is that all right?
No.
If I get one? I'm so sorry. I will literally be a moment.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
From Sony's PlayStation come the greatest hits, all your old favorites,
Like the soft sounds of swarming missiles.
and the gentle crack of Sophia's whip.
Feel the hilarious antics of Sweet Tooth, that lovable clown.
All for just $24.99 each, but wait.
There's more?
That's right, the PlayStation is a mere $149, and you can also get leading titles
Like Crash Bandicoot and Jet Moto.
for just $49.99 and less.
You are not ready.
Sorry about that. I've asked my husband to go make a brew for me, so he's just going to nip downstairs for me, so I'm not away too long. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My throat's quite sore at the moment, and as you can probably hear, I'm not at my talking peak.
It's completely understandable. Now, this question is actually from Nightshades. What's the first game that you've ever beaten?
The first game I ever beat? Oh gosh, let me think. Tomb Raider, the first one on the PlayStation. That'll be the first one that I can recall off the top of my head beating. Although that wasn't just me on my own, that was a joint effort. That was me, my sister, and my nan. all three of us all sat together. But yeah, that's the first one where we've actually sat and beat a game all together. But that was over the course of several Saturdays and Sundays in a row. But yeah, we used to mainly game with my nan when I was really little. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I beat before that. That's the first one that I can think of. That's the first one I can remember finishing, actually. I have finished Croc, Legend of the Gobos. That was just me on my own. But that was using the passwords because I didn't have I didn't have a memory card. So every time I got somewhere, I had to use a password. Those are probably the earliest ones that I remember finishing. I'm not that great with finishing games. Like, I play a lot of games, but I'd say I only probably play any through to completion. Probably about 25% of them. It's not very good, is it?
No, it's.
And
That's
even
right.
then, it's not even technically completing. It's just finishing them. Like Crash Bandicoot 2, I've finished that multiple times, but I've never completed it.
Yeah. One game I'm trying to do right now is Jet Set Radio Future. I've had that game for about 2 years now, and I'm on my way to the end of beating it.
Oh God, do you know, I've never actually played Jet Set Radio, but every time someone mentions it, it just reminds me of Slope's Game Room. He used to do a video of like his top 10 YouTubers with under 5,000 subs, and then in between each segment about each YouTuber, he had the character from Jet Set Radio going up to the wall and doing the graffiti in between, and then it would like be like this really clever transition where it would move on to the next segment. So that's what I think of every time I hear Jet Set Radio.
All right.
Pretty
Go
cool.
ahead. All right. What's your favorite consoles at the moment? I guess that you're playing.
Oh gosh, it used to be that my favorite console was my new 3DS. That was always my favorite for a really long time. I do really like the Switch, but I've mostly been playing PS4 recently, although I have migrated over to an Xbox One. But I wouldn't say that that's my favorite. I'm just using the Xbox One really because it's got Game Pass on it. So that's why I'm playing that one at the moment. I've literally, like, how dumb is this? Like, I live and breathe games, but I've only just acquired Game Pass like recently. I didn't even know it was a thing. It just completely went over me. So this is like a new thing that I found out about, and now that I've got it, I'm like, oh my God, there's all these games on here. So for the first time ever, I'm actually managing to get through Final Fantasy VIII at the moment. Like, this is my 4th attempt at starting this game because whatever I've played it on previously, it's just not worked out for me because I never played it on the PlayStation. So the first time I tried to play, I'm going off on a tangent here. Sorry, I'm terrible for tangents. But
That's okay.
the first time I played Final Fantasy VIII was on the PS Vita, and I got stuck in the first town. Where you have that so the music's now playing in my brain for this, but you know, you have I don't know whether you've played Final Fantasy VIII or not, but at the beginning of the game, like, there's a radio tower. You have to go through a town, make your way to a radio tower. You have to fight Biggs and Wedge, and then on your way back you've got like this crab shaped robot machine thing coming after you, and it doesn't work on the PS Vita because on the PS Vita it's got like pressure. It's got like pressure pads on the back of it that register your fingers like gliding over them. So for me, I could not get it to work. That mechanic, I couldn't get it to work. I didn't know whether there was a way to remap the buttons. It just wasn't working at all. And then after that, I tried to play it on emulator. We had like this strange, like gigantic phone thing. You know those like weird, like Soldier Boy type devices that come from Hong Kong?
Yeah.
We had one of these Hong Kong companies a couple of years ago send through like a massive gaming phone to us. and we installed a PlayStation 1 emulator on it and downloaded Final Fantasy 8, and I tried to play it again then, but then I was finding that the device itself just wasn't working for me. It was no good. So I ended up sort of like not playing it. I sort of got to the same point and then gave up. And then another time I tried to play it on PC via an emulator, but I just don't use the PC enough for that. And by that point I had I'd already had one of my babies, so it just wasn't working out for me to have the laptop on my lap trying to play a game whilst I'm trying to look after a baby. It just doesn't work. And I know what I gave that one up for. I gave that one up for Geralt of Rivia. I had Witcher 3, got that for Christmas that time. So I was like dumping school for Geralt. Okay. So this time, yeah, playing it on the Xbox One, and I'm like, my mind is blown. It's for me, it's like really easy to play because it's so like slow paced and stop and start and stop and start. I can just pause it and not get lost particularly. So if the boys are both asleep, and I can get a bit of gaming in, but then if one of them wakes up, I can just easily pause it and then save it and get off. It's like quite nice in that regard. I kind of miss that about modern games. But yes, that's probably why I'd say at the moment I'm enjoying the Xbox One, but I don't know, not my favourite. I'd say PS4 is probably my favourite at the moment, but only because I just love a PS4 controller. That's it, really.
Understandable. Now, this is another weird question. Is it hard being a female in gaming, or just gaming overall? I mean, I have a few opinions on it, but obviously I can't relate because I'm not a woman. So, what's your opinion on it?
Well, for me, sorry, I've got my tea now. My lovely husband brought it in for me. Hang on. I'd say yes and no. With having the Top Hat Gaming Man channel for a long time, I've obviously always seen how that performs, how people react to things, and bearing in mind, like, I don't really want to go into like politics or anything like that because I'm rubbish at that kind of thing. My husband's like, he's a straight fella and he's white, and it's obviously cisgendered. So it's like so I've always seen how that happens. And then whilst my channel was still really, really, really little, I never once, not once, had a mean comment ever. Like on the few comments I used to get like 10, 20 comments per video. Always really lovely, really, really nice, really positive, or even like constructive criticism, which is always handy. Like, I know some people don't take criticism well, but sometimes people say stuff to you and it's legitimately really helpful. But then since my channel's blown up, I have started. Well, I started to cut like the other month, realizing, oh, hang on a minute, I'm getting a lot more negativity in my comment section, like in comparison to what my husband does. And so I don't know whether you saw, but I actually put up 2 straight to camera pieces. I put up one moaning about people thinking about OnlyFans, and then another one.
That OnlyFans one was kind of funny.
Yeah, and then the one about being called a fake gamer, and I'm still getting comments like that. And I mean, to be honest with you, I'm very much of the mentality of, all right, well, these people think that they control me. All right, well, I'll make a bit of money off it.
Fair enough.
So like, I'm getting trolled by these people. So I've made a video about it, having a bit of a moan about it, saying what I think of them a little bit on the camera and all this, that, and the other. And ad revenue I've well done, like, made up. It's been worth my while, basically. So yes, I've had enough rubbish. I mean, I've had the usual stuff where like you get the sort of anti-Patreon people. They sometimes pop up and mention stuff, but I mean, by far and large, they're pretty harmless. It's not really much else to say on it. I'd say I do think it comes down to, bearing in mind, before I made the videos, the comments that I was getting was either people saying to me, like that I should have an OnlyFans, which I'll explain why that perturbs me. Obviously, I've made a whole video. If anyone hasn't watched that, then I explain on the video. But basically, I don't think it's right that in this day and age, just because someone is a personality on the internet and they just so happen to have an XX chromosome, I don't think that people should be watching that and then thinking, they should have an OnlyFans. I'm going to go on OnlyFans and check them out. Like, is that what it's come to? Is that what it's come to now? And then on the other end, like people calling me a fake gamer. They were calling me a fake gamer before the OnlyFans thing. It's just that's what I decided to make the topic of the video about when I released. I think I'm exposed to a lot more than I would have been exposed to because of who I've married. But I was interested in gaming since being a child. It's just I've been in a fortunate position where I've been exposed to a lot more because my husband was a collector from being a young teenager. So, I mean, if things had been different and I'd ended up not marrying my husband for some reason and had a different boyfriend instead, because I've been with my husband since I was 17 years old. And that's legal in the UK, by the way. Oh, she was 17? Yeah, that's legal. So, it could have been that, for example, say I hadn't met him and I'd met someone else, got married to someone else, and they weren't into gaming, then I would have had a really basic level of knowledge. I would have only really kept with like the winners of each console war of each generation, because that's all I would have really been exposed to. I don't think my interest would have quite developed as much, but I don't know, it's hard to say. I would have still been nostalgic for the PlayStation. I still play the PlayStation when I can. But yeah, it would have been probably predominantly the stuff that I got off my nan, because everything that I had was hand-me-downs from my nan. When I was very little, we had a Mega Drive for a while. That was my nan's. My nan had a Super Nintendo, although I didn't inherit that. I got the PlayStation off my nan. I then got a PlayStation 2 off of my nan. By the time the PlayStation 3 came out, I was with Top Hat, so I was able to purchase one myself. But and I also was competing with the fact that when I was little, my mum thought that games were more of a boys' thing, so she either didn't particularly pick up much in the way of games for me, or if she did, they were particularly feminine games. So, for example, I made a video about this years ago. 102 Dalmatians, Hercules, like anything like that just seems a bit more feminine appropriate was what I was which was what was purchased for me. Like, honestly, my mum didn't know anything about it. I had a PlayStation for like 3 or 4 years without a memory card. So that's like that's what I was competing with. So I don't think I had sort of like the right background as such to fall into it, but I was very fortunate because obviously ending up with Top Hat meant that something that I was very, very interested in but was very suppressed in my home life, I was able to get more into, and he had more things. Like, you know, I was 17 years old before I saw a Sega Saturn. That's amazing. Really? Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I remember being in our school years are completely different in the UK. So if I say I was in class 5, so I guess that would be fourth grade. I turned 10. So what class is what age, what year group is that in America? If you're 10 years old.
Yeah, I guess that would be 4th grade.
Yeah. Okay. So 5th grade in the UK, because we start school a year earlier here. 5th grade. 5th grade. I was obviously using my nan's PlayStation, but there was a boy in my class who had an N64. And I remember thinking, what is this peasant technology here? Nintendo 64. Like, honestly, everyone in my class had a PlayStation. Oh, sorry, there's a motorbike going past.
It's alright.
Yeah, everyone in my class had a PlayStation. No one in my class had a Saturn, not a single person. And then there was Andrew in my class. I shan't say his last name in case. But Andrew in my class, he had an N64 and he played Zelda. And we all thought he was really poor. Sorry, I'm snorting.
No, no, it's okay. I had a very, I had a,
10 years old. Oh my god, can you tell I like grew up in like this like posh old little seaside like posh white town. Do you know?
It's alright.
In my primary school, I was the one and only non-white child, and I didn't know until I got to secondary school that there was a difference. Didn't know at all. Didn't know I was different at all, and I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, that's alright. I had a very similar thing when I was in school. It was the PS3 versus the Xbox 360. Everybody I knew had a 360. It was sort of the same thing.
Do you know what? This is a debate I had at the last job that I had before I fell pregnant. I literally had like this debate going on with a couple of people that I worked with, where I was team PlayStation and they were team Xbox. And I literally like was ranting and raving at them about how PlayStation exclusives are so much better than Xbox ones. Oh, that was so funny. That was really bad. And I was like, yes, but what about this RPG and that RPG? And what kind of meaningful RPGs are exclusive on the Xbox? Oh no, I didn't think so. And so on. It was just like, it was like I was being a total like PlayStation Karen.
It is what it is. We gotta go through that sometimes.
Mm.
Alright, so I guess another question for you. What makes it interesting about, researching like really hardcore like gaming topics? Like, I'm really interested about that Super Nintendo laptop. Like, how do you find out about that?
Often it's sort of like research rabbit holes and suggestions from viewers, and also Facebook groups. So I'm finding at the moment I'm trying to join more Facebook groups, because if you can get past the gatekeeping questions, I'm joking. No, they're not. It's like most of them have like questions set up that you have to answer to be allowed to join the group, but they're actually just there to stop bots from joining. But some of them put on like quite hardcore questions, and then unless you really know what you're talking about, like, you're not allowed to join the group, which is actually, in my opinion, fair enough. Like, you don't really want to have like the group I quite like at the moment is there's a Sega Saturn collectors group. It's a really large group, very international, that's on Facebook, and it's got a really, really nice team running it. So, like, of course, like, you're going to want people that actually do give a hoot about the Sega Saturn in your group. So, I do completely understand it, but I don't. Sometimes I think, oh well, if someone's just starting out wanting to find out about the Sega Saturn, that's going to come across as quite intimidating. So yes, Facebook groups are really, really, really useful, especially because you get some real experts in those groups. So that's always really useful. Yeah, Facebook groups. When I say research rabbit holes, what I mean by that is, say you go on Wikipedia and you're researching something, the most useful thing about Wikipedia is not the article itself, because they're not always reliable, but it's the references. So often the references will be linked to things that are on like the Wayback Machine, or like old magazine scans and so on and so forth. That's what you really want to be looking in, because once you manage to get into one magazine article, sometimes you're actually able to access the whole magazine, and it might be a magazine that's been scanned from like 1992, which is really, really useful. Or sometimes you'll be reading up on like one website about something, and then you'll come across something else that's not relevant to the video you're making, but you think, oh, that's important, I'm gonna make a note of that. And then even stuff like, I get comments just saying, oh, you should do a video about this, or you should play this. Like, I get people suggest stuff to me in Discord. I've got one of my patrons on Patreon. He is like a fountain of ideas. Like, the stuff he knows about is just amazing. And then he'll say, oh, what about this, and what about this, and there's just like, basically ideas almost get like thrown at me. And then I'll talk to Top Hat about them and say, oh, which ones do you reckon are the best ones, and these ones, and what do you reckon to this and that and the other. And then all you end up doing is you read up on stuff, and then eventually from that you'll think, what's a good question that I can ask that I can use this information to answer. And that's generally how I come up with the videos.
Gotcha. All right.
Do you know what? Twitter is so good for that. If you're on Twitter, Twitter's really, really useful for that, because if you can get a question out there, then you will eventually, it depends on how much of a following you've got. If you're struggling to get any kind of followers on Twitter, then Twitter's not a good place. But for me, I think because my channel's growing, my Twitter following is naturally growing with it. If you can put a question out there, then people that care about that subject will always come back to you. And actually, thinking about it, do you know what Instagram can be? If you can catch people's eye with a good Instagram picture, and you write a question underneath that, and you put in the right hashtags on it, then you can actually get an awful lot back from Instagram actually as well. Although I haven't tried that for a long time, but do you know what? I might start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is actually really easy to grow on.
Yeah, I think I've gained something like 500 followers in the past few months on there, which I think is rather good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people sometimes need to potentially change their editing software to something that feels more comfortable for them to use. Like for me, my husband likes using Adobe Premiere Pro, but I don't get on with that. For me, if I was going to be editing, I need something a bit simpler that's going to do a lot of the work for me. My editor uses Filmora. He's also used Adobe Premiere Pro, and for him, he prefers Filmora because he can do what he wants a lot quicker, because a lot of the things that you have to manually create yourself on Adobe is already pre-made for you as transitions and so on and so forth on Filmora. So for example, you could, if you want something a bit more user-friendly and a bit more beginner-friendly, then go with one of the simpler editing suites. But if you really, really know what you're doing, like my husband does, then you can stick with Adobe Premiere Pro. But again, it's because that's a professional quality piece of kit, it's really expensive to use that. So I don't know, it depends how much money you can invest into it, bearing in mind if you're a small creator, you're not going to be making that much money back off of it if you've even got to monetization status. So I'd say the product that you put out is really important. You have to make sure it's of the highest quality that you can do. If it's sorry, I'm my brain is going off in so many different directions of this, so I need to just focus into just thinking about one thing. Your equipment, like the best that you can get. Like I had a Turtle Beach microphone for a really long time. It's awful, really awful. Oh, sorry, but it was a step up from what we was doing previously, which was we used to talk into our boom mic, which was on top of the camera. So we used to read the script into the camera using our little mini boom mic on top of that. So the Turtle Beach mic was a step up from that. But now we've got the Blue Yeti microphone, and it's so much crispier and nicer and clear that we don't have hardly any trouble when we do our voice recordings. A lot of people use Audacity to record their voice recordings. That's what we use now. Since we moved on from using a camera, we use Audacity because it's a free software to use. So the thing with Audacity is it is predominantly designed actually for voice recordings for music. So it's got all of these settings that you can do this, that and the other on there. But if you've got a good microphone, then you don't actually really need to sod with the settings very much, because a good microphone will do it all for you. And then all you need to do really is eliminate the background noise, which is just one little easy 10-second job to do. So that would be like, so what we've got so far is having your editing as crispy and sharp looking as possible. And then you've got having your audio as good as possible. I mean, but this is all stuff that if you're not making a lot of money on, if you can afford, if you're in the fortunate position in the first place to be able to invest in all of this, we ended up having to invest as time went on, like when we could afford to type thing.
At the moment I'm currently editing my videos on iMovie to record. I'm just using the voice memo thing on my iPad.
Yeah. So, but you've got to start somewhere. So you just do the best that you can do with what you've got. Become an expert at what you've got. And don't be afraid to try different things, because whilst you've still got a small channel, you can afford to try out different things until you find something that works. The problem with bigger channels is that you can't deviate from what you're doing because you lose your audience. So that's something that we've learned as well as time has gone on. Like basically Top Hat Gaming Man, the channel, is kind of stuck with fighting games, beat 'em ups, and sort of variations of that. So we're kind of stuck in a niche to a certain extent. Like we try other things and it kind of doesn't gel well with the audience, where my channel seems to be a bit easier. I can do consoles and older games and so on and so forth. And I mean, I was really surprised the other day because I uploaded a video about the beginnings of Final Fantasy VII, which was supposed to be on the N64, and I think I'm maybe just about to break 100,000 views on that. It's only been up like a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like insane, really. I kind of wasn't expecting that. I didn't think that video was going to do very well. And then I've just uploaded an Earthbound video, same sort of thing, and it's like performing 10 of 10. It's like not doing that well at all. And that was like my favourite video I've ever made so far, because I've got like this most stupid skit in the middle of it. Which I was really, really pleased with. Like, we was crying laughing. It was so hard to film it because I couldn't stop laughing. I've got another video coming up about the Amiga CD32, and I've got a really, really stupid skit in that. Like, honestly, it's gonna be really stupid, and I'm actually like a bit worried about it. Like, it's not gonna come across well at all, but it is what it is. But so let me just get back on point, because I'm terrible with going off on a tangent, like really bad. So be the best at what you can. So do the best that you can with what you've got, with editing, with your voice recording, and then topics. You have to pick something that It has to be enjoyable for you. That's what's most important. But you need to keep to a core audience. So, for example, all of my interests lie in retro stuff mainly. I'd say from, I don't know, like 1987 to say 1999 would be like my core decade of what I like best. So I can keep within those parameters for my videos. And then that actually appeals to my biggest audience, which is people aged 35 to 44. That's my largest bracket. So when they would have been a teenager, like an older child to being an older teenager, is during those years, the 1987 to 1999. So if you find what area is your favourite, the problem is that people starting on YouTube now, there's so much of everything already there. So there's already, like, if you're a male and you're coming into retro gaming, there's like so much competition.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, my main audience is just a group of friends from my Discord. By the way, if you want to go check the I can't talk today. Go check out the Discord, link in the description. But I'm sorry for interrupting. Go right ahead.
Yeah, but that's good because for you, you've got these videos that you're making that is fun for you, that you enjoy, and you've got people there who you can actually have a meaningful conversation about them with. And that's actually really, really lovely, because for me, obviously, I'm doing this with the purpose of creating an income. So there's different elements to it. Like for me, the pressure is there that I must make sure that I'm making videos which are going to essentially, long and short of it, get views, because I need the views. My editor is reliant on me getting views because my channel supports him and his family too. So I'm very, very fortunate that the stuff I like is the stuff that works. I'm fortunate to be a female in a 99% male arena, basically.
Gotcha. Now, I guess a less serious question. What decade would you rather be rich in? The 80s, 90s, or 2000s? Like, I'm talking like an ultra millionaire type thing. Like, what decade would you rather be rich in?
Well, like an 80s yuppie or ultra rich in one of those eras. Let me think about this a second. So weird because, like, I think the earlier the decade that you was ultra wealthy in, like, the less restrictions on you there would have been. Like, could you imagine being like in like the 70s and early 80s as like the super elite of wealthy, like Pablo Escobar level of wealthy, without the, well, I suppose like back in those days it was the dodgy dealings that made you rich, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'd imagine to be rich in the 80s, it must have been like really cool. I mean, you got
Vice
the,
City.
Exactly.
Literally Vice City. Oh god. I think I don't know, it's so hard to say because I can think of pros and cons for everywhere. Like, would I be a different human being if I was super rich in those, or would I be me? It's really, really, really difficult to say. It's so hard to say. I literally can't say. Like, all that I can say is that every week I play the National Lottery and play the Euro Millions, and I still don't win. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, me personally, I would say the 90s, because I mean, the 90s was like a weird. It was like weird. Yeah, I mean, technology evolved like that in the 90s. You know, in the beginning you had the Super Nintendo. In the late 90s, you had the Dreamcast. Like, the 90s, I was born in 97, so I didn't get to experience it. But just from looking at it, it seemed like a weird time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Probably the 90s would probably be the most. So, oh my god, though, like if you were super rich though in the 90s, you know you'd have to hang out with, don't you? And it's just awful.
Oh,
You'd have to hang out with Trump, wouldn't you? It's like you'd hang out with Trump, hang out with Vince McMahon.
All right,
That would be Do you know what? If I was like around in the 90s, I think I'd actually want to be friends with like Jim Cornette or something. So nice. I'd love to be like a fly on the wall in the WWE. That's what I think would be brilliant. Could you imagine me in their writers' rooms and the infighting and the arguing and I'd just be so stupid. That would what I would be if I was like ultra rich. I'd do like back in the 90s, but an AEW style thing. That would be funny. I'd be like another Dixie Carter, like so, an extremely rich woman who doesn't really know anything about wrestling but wants a promotion and it's money.
All right, now I guess a less complicated question. If you had a DeLorean, what would be the first thing you would do when it comes to retro gaming?
Oh, if I had a DeLorean, I would take myself back to the early 90s. I would insist I'd bust my way through the Nintendo head office and I'd march up to President Yamauchi's office and I'd be fluent in Japanese, Japanese etiquette. And I would say to him, Yamauchi sensei, do not bore off Sony. For goodness sake, do not bore off Sony. Go with it. Just go with it. Drop all of these fears that you have about piracy. Forget all of the nonsense that you've had go on in Brazil. Forget all of the nonsense going on in India with piracy and hacking and all of these other problems that you've got that are going to make you so protectionist. Stop acting like CD-ROMs are a fad. Stop pretending to yourself that cartridges are going to keep you relevant. Like, forget all of that. When Sony comes knocking on your door, you say to them, come in, my friend, let's do business. like honestly, that would have saved a lot of problems. And you know what? The thing is, though, at the same time, it's like, can you imagine the butterfly effect from that?
I know.
The butterfly effect from that it would change the face of gaming. Like, if you didn't have, like, you wouldn't have the PlayStation 5, you wouldn't have the new Xboxes, like, you wouldn't have the Switch, or maybe you would do, but then you wouldn't have had the Vita, you wouldn't have had the PSP. It's like our choices would have forever been a lot less. But then at the same time, there's so much competition on the market. You get people like Soulja Boy that think they can do it too.
Well, I would honestly do two things. One stupid thing and one serious thing. I would go to Microsoft and go when they started making the Xbox One. I would just be like, hey, you know what? Remember this whole thing released in 2001? Why don't we go back to the drawing board and do something like that? Because I think modern Xbox just sucks. I mean, when you play the OG Xbox, it has such a personality. The start of the menus, I honestly think they should have went back to that.
I hate the original Xbox.
Why?
I just do. I just hate it. I didn't mind the 360. I liked the 360. And the Xbox One is all right. But no, I just hated the original Xbox. Like, I hated the controller. My cousins Ashley and Aaron, they had an Xbox. So I'd go around there and play Fable with them. But apart from that one game, Fable, I hated it. I can't get on with it. I've got a few Xbox games, but it's like I find the system really abhorrent for some reason. I can't tell you why. I can't explain it. I just don't like it. I totally loved my PS3.
I understand. Now, the one stupid thing I would do, I would bring like a Switch or a PS5 with me, go over to an Atari back in the 70s and just be like, hey, look, this is video games in the future. And just watch them freak out.
Oh my god, could you imagine like taking them into Jack Trammell and watching him have his like literal heart attack and fall on the floor? You grab his walking stick and poke him in the leg and be like, Trammell, you okay? Get up! Get up!
Yeah, I would just... Ooh, or I could go to the 1950s, show people video games, show people a bunch of other stuff. It would be funny.
Oh god, you know what? I could think of loads of stuff like this. We should write a book. That would be funny. Like different what ifs. what if this happened and we went back and sodded with this? That would be so good.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for being on here. I guess thank you for allowing me to interview you, and yeah, it was a good time.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, no, I enjoyed that. I could carry on talking for hours now. Oh, we'll have to do this again sometime. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, cool. I don't have any more questions, so that's kind of it. But again, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Oh, thank you ever so much for inviting me. That was really cool. I liked that. Oh, all right, thank you. See you later.
I'm sorry.
See you later.
Well, alright, guys. If you want to go check out Lady Decade's channel, she posts great stuff. Go check out her latest video about Earthbound. That video is honestly really hilarious. And check out the Super Nintendo laptop too, because that actually had me really interested. You still there?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were still doing the outro or not. Yeah, it's Bandai HET is what you need to search for that one.
Yeah, that one was honestly really interesting to me. But yeah, if you guys want to go check out her stuff, and if you want to like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. No rush, and hope you all have a great day. See you. See you, Decade.
See you later.